first of all, Celia.
Yes, sorry.
So I want to know a little bit about you as a woman, at home, kicking back, in your pyjamas, maybe a bottle of Chardonnay. What are you watching yourself at the moment in terms of television? And it can be any genre.
Veep.
Veep.
Veep is and I save it up, and I look forward to it starting, and I deliberately don't watch it, and I watch it stacking up on my Sky Plus, and then I go into my pyjamas, a bottle of wine, and then I watch loads of it all in once. So it's my favourite treat, Veep.
So a box set,
yeah,
basically, in particular. Yeah. And what is it that you love particularly about Veep?
Veep, a brilliant central female figure, amazing writing, ensemble cast, genius storylines, always surprising, and I think for an American comedy, it's got amazing edge, so I really love it.
Okay, much like Sky itself.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes.
So with that in mind, let's just have a quick look at Sky's showreel. That's fantastic, really fantastic reel. I mean, a great diversity of programmes there. And I feel robbed because you actually do have somebody on a train. So, you know...
we had one train, Ross, that was taking a train that's called the Beast. And he actually tried to do as much of the journey as possible as these immigrants do. So it was an extraordinary film, actually. So
who exactly, given that diversity, who exactly is your audience then for Sky One and Sky Arts? Who would you say they are?
Sky One, it's the big mainstream family audience. We're the home of The Simpsons, so I think that sort of tells you a lot about who our audience are. They like entertainment. They are basically, they're us. And it's that sort of big, broad mainstream family audience. And on Sky Arts, they tend to be a little bit older, a little bit more upmarket. And I think the thing with Sky Arts is it's interesting. You can't really talk about one audience because somebody who likes heavy metal is not going to like opera. So I think, you know, there is an arts audience, but you have to recognise within that there are pockets of passion. And so we very much have to talk to those pockets of passion on Sky Arts as well as trying to reach the broader audience with things like Portrait Artist of the Year.
Can you give us a clear idea or a clear steer, given that basically we've got a room full of producers, exactly what it is you're looking for across those two channels, or maybe specifically what doesn't work for you?
Oh, and also we commission on Sky Atlantic as well. So Sky Atlantic is really easy and simple. We just commissioned feature cinema release documentaries on that channel. So we saw Scientology, Alex Gibney's film, which has been 7 Emmy nominations. So, so that's a really simple, clear brief. The best documentary talent out there, big, epic cinematic stories.
On Sky Atlantic. So...
On Sky Atlantic, and that's the only non-scripted thing we do on Sky Atlantic. Okay. Sky One, we mostly commission at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. I still think we don't have that sort of returnable, repeatable, factual brand for 8 o'clock. We commission quite a few things at 8. About half of them are coming back, which was the ratio that we sort of set ourselves, our success ratio. But I still think we're still missing that sort of Boise, factual, returnable thing at 8 o'clock.
So Boise, so if you could nick another series from another channel for that 8 p.m. slot, what would you go for?
Top Gear.
Right, so that's the kind of... So it's Boise, it's returnable, it's ambitious.
Yes, absolutely, for 8 o'clock. And then 9 o'clock, we are... I mean, the other thing we have to... Because I run the non-scripted department, the other thing to remember is obviously that is just a factual reel, but obviously we go from everything from League of Their Own to natural history. And so our factual is quite broad. It goes from top-end natural history to quite factual entertainment stuff. So it's quite hard in 3 sentences to say what we're looking for. But I think funny factual always works really well for us. Mickey Flanagan's Detour of France did really well for us. Freddie Flintoff is doing more funny for us, and Carl's doing his new series, and we'd love more like that. And I particularly love some female funny women. I think there's quite a lot of funny middle-aged men on television generally.
There's a lot of funny middle-aged women as well.
There are, so we'd like to see some of them on television. But I think it can't just be a travelogue, it needs to come with a concept and a grain of authenticity that makes it feel believable. 50 Ways is a genuine, obviously, mother and son relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and brilliantly successful. I think it's sold in 120 territories. So it's such an easy concept to grab. And I think that's the thing with Sky One. You really need that concept that you can sell in 3 words. I always say, you know, I know we all say that, but it's really important on the audience. You need a big, direct sell to get the audience in and to hook them, and then you can deliver really complicated, sophisticated television, but you do need that.
So 3-word sell, basically.
Yeah, and talent always helps.
And who should producers be coming to see? Is it just you, Celia, or who else is there?
You obviously email me, and then what I'll do is, otherwise I just drown, and then I get a bad reputation for not coming back to people. So normally what I do, I then will connect you with the right commissioning editor. There's 6 commissioning editors across all the 3 channels, and on demand as well. And some of them are very much entertainment and spectrum, and some of them are very much factual. So depending on the idea and depending on what channel you're pitching to, I can then connect you with that right commissioning editor. But if you look at our commissioning website, you can see all their names, all their email addresses.
So I've got down here, which I'm presuming is incorrect, that you stopped commissioning at 8 p.m, but you're saying that actually you are commissioning at 8 p.m.
No, we still are, yeah.
OK, that is fantastic news. Thank you. Richard, moving along, I'm just imagining you at home, because very few people know Richard the Man Klein. So if we imagine you at home, obviously always barefoot, I imagine.
Sockless.
Would you be naked watching telly, perhaps? Can of Stella? What would it be? Paint the picture.
No, I'm not naked. I've probably got what I'm wearing at the moment.
And sort of casually reclining.
Casually reclining, yeah. Probably paying professional attention at the same time.
Well, this is what I don't want.
Given that I'm on a panel here, you know.
I don't want professional attention. I want you as a family man watching the box. What would you go for?
Well, if I'm watching with my wife, it'll be location, almost certainly, because that's what she likes to watch. I currently am enjoying Parks and Recreation, which is on Dave. I think it's a fantastic comedy series. I think it's one of the best in America too. Sharp, edged, witty. Probably a Top Gear repeat.
So you're quite ladsy then, aren't you, really?
He's all man.
You are all man.
Yeah, well, you know.
100% man. OK, well, let's have a look at your showreel to see what we can look forward to on ITV.
Let's go for it.
There are some really great shows there, actually, really great shows. But by your own admission, you've been at ITV for 2 years, is that right?
Yeah.
It has been a struggle, and you've said that before. You've had some big hits. Yep. Particularly The Mafia with Trevor McDonald, we know this, but some of your shows haven't quite reached the mark. Why do you think that is? What's the struggle been for you over 2 years?
I think the issue that one faces in a big, more broad mainstream channel, particularly now, is that Factual is everywhere. There's a lot of Factual around, and you're never not up against a drama or a recording or a box set, so you're always up against it if you like. And I think getting the tone absolutely right for a big mainstream audience, which is kind of able to watch something else if they want at a touch of a button now, quite hard to do. And I think getting that tone right all the time consistently has proved hard. I think we've got a good story to tell these days because, as you've seen from the Real Collar shows, have been out and done pretty well, I think. The thing that I look for, and actually I sort of get offered the least, in a way you could call is the blindingly obvious, reappraised through the eyes of somebody who we know, so that instantly signals to an audience familiarity. They know who they are. It's an assurance that they're going to get what they want. And then made really, really well. There's a little clip in there, actually with Trevor again, where he goes to Las Vegas. A really obvious thing to do, if you could argue. But with Trevor there, it adds a little touch. And then who does he go and see? He goes and sees Mike Tyson, and they go on the school run with him. I'm watching that. You know, I think it's about... I think Mafia is another really good example where actually you sort of feel like you know it, but when you watch it, the characters are strong, the atmosphere is strong, it's beautifully made. And obviously you have to involve trains, clearly. We struggle in America, but we have got Billy Connolly doing some train stuff for us.
So you're talking about maybe humanising subjects that previously have been a little bit inaccessible. Is that what you're saying? So with Mafia...
I think an ITV audience is always after the story, the narrative and the emotion. They're not looking... They do want content, but they don't want it directly as stuff. It's not how this audience chooses to consume. And if you don't get that right, if they say... One has to also remember that sort of the Channel 4, the ITV audience is I mean, it's the most female skewing of all the major channels. You know, it's roughly 37 male, 63 female. So you have to be careful where you're going because clearly it's a very particular audience, but it is a big one.
Well, tell me about that audience. Exactly who are they, do you think? I mean, you know, if you could paint a picture of who that person is sitting in front of the TV, we're saying it's mainly female?
Well, we have obviously the biggest soaps in the country, and they tend to attract a female audience. We essentially drama entertainment is a big sort of female draw. As I say, the skewing is about 37-63. I think because we're a broad channel, we like to think we appeal to everybody. We do, in fact. We had a show go out at the beginning of the year, which was at Alan Titchmarsh, called Britain's Best Gardens, which did very well with ABC Ones. On the other hand, you can have a show which does pretty well at 9 o'clock, Car Crash Britain Caught on Camera, which actually skewed a bit more male.
Yeah.
We are obviously trying to attract as broad a range as we can, both in demographic, sort of ABC, and also in demographic in terms of age, because we're trying to appeal to an advertising audience. We want to be able to offer to our advertisers a range of people who are watching.
Well, the good news is I did a straw poll of producers that I know anyway, just to get a feel of you know, how they tend to respond and react to the commissioners. And ITV comes out incredibly well in terms of goodwill. And producers are saying, we really enjoy working for ITV. We really enjoy Richard's department in particular. So there's a lot of goodwill there, but they're saying that there's a feeling that there aren't the slots there and that they're not really going to be able to get their ideas through. How do you respond to that?
We've got plenty of slots. I mean, our slot range is 8 o'clock Monday and Friday half hours, where we're looking for, you saw a couple of Robson Green's Northumberland or John Sargent's Barging Around Britain, both of which did pretty well, actually. They're not high tariff, they're about 45 to 50k. We've got 8 o'clock on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Pretty decent money. Bear Grylls is going to play there. So they're our slots. And then 9 o'clock is obviously our shop window. We're looking for really big ideas. As I say, don't be frightened of coming to us with the really obvious idea, but make sure it's a really big one, and make sure it's probably going to be fronted by somebody who the audience are familiar with. It should feel like a clever fit. There's no point just sticking anybody on there. I think Joanna doing the Trans-Siberian Express felt rather warm and wonderful, and you kind of wanted to go there with her. Billy Connolly is doing a big journey around America on Amtrak. Again, that feels absolutely right with Billy doing that. You kind of want to be with Billy when he does that. I should also say we kind of look for formats a lot. It's quite a struggle getting a format to work straight off on a mainstream channel. It's a real big ask. We've had a few, there's a couple in there, Flock Stars, Big Box of the Box, Travel Guides, all of which I think are really good shows and have rated decently, I think, and I think are a positive step forward. It's quite hard without a big nursery slope. I mean, it's difficult to kind of get that audience to kind of come with us at first off, but as a result, we're really up for piloting. So again, producers can be assured that we have money to spend. I've got at least 10 pilots running, and probably at least double the number of kind of properly funded developments. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline where we're funding it in order to be able to kind of test out ideas, see if they work. We're very much in the game of encouraging. And I should just add, I'm delighted to hear that response from producers. I know that Peter's, the sort of broadcaster sort of commissioning thing is quite positive for ITV as well. We understand that we're all in a professional relationship. People are trying to make money, they're trying to make a living, they're trying to make things work, trying to get things through. We understand that we're in the same business, and they can therefore be really assured that we will talk to them as professionals and give them a proper response quickly. That's the key for me. So
you're saying essentially ambition,
yes.
But I think one thing that worries a lot of producers is the fact that there's no nursery slope for new talent.
It's tough,
they're established faces always. Mm. Is that a problem, really, at the end of the day? Because it's Joanna Lumley, it's Trevor, you know, it's Davina. Surely there's room for somebody new to punch through.
I think it is quite hard on a mainstream channel. I don't think you'll find there are very many completely new faces starting on a big mainstream channel anywhere. But I'll give you the example of Davina there. I've never seen Davina do that before. Davina's doing a big natural history show, which is we're delighted with. It looks terrific. She's amazing, and I watched episode 3 the other day, which is her going to do the deep. It's fantastic, I think, and I think she's seen in a completely different light. So we can advance, but it is quite, there's no point in arguing, but it is quite difficult to do it with somebody who the audience simply don't know, because that's kind of not what they're expecting when they come to ITV. They're expecting to have a bit of familiarity. They almost need it. If you think about Paul O'Grady and Battersea Dogs Home, those two together completely transform both stories. So that is quite a trick to pull off. And it's harder to do than it looks. But established talent then with a passion you may not know about, a different side to them. Yes, and one that's authentic. I mean, I know authenticity is an odd word to use in television.
Is it? Not really.
I recommend Peter York's book, Authenticity is a Con. It is because television's, you know, we are in the game of showbiz, but it should feel proper. In other words, there has to be some authenticity at the heart of it.
You see, I would totally disagree with you there, because I think that, yes, we're in the business of entertainment, but it's also communication, and actually the viewer is going to feel much more reassured by somebody they think is genuine than something they think is a construct.
Oh, no, sorry, I think we're not disagreeing.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Well, actually, on that point, who do you listen to? Do you listen to your audience? Do you listen to your critics? Do you listen to social media? And I want to sort of, you know, ask the whole of the panel about this. As commissioners, because we've not heard from you guys at all, are you listening to your critics at all and then sort of responding to that when it comes to commissioning? No. Ralph?
I think all the commissioners I know are now obsessed with watching Twitter while their programmes go out, because the idea of having... when I joined Channel 4, we all used to read viewer inquiries in the morning because there was a significant amount of viewers phoning in or writing in. Now you just watch the response as it happens, and it's utterly fascinating. I mean, it's obviously distorted because it's not a natural kind of, you know, demographic kind of split on Twitter, but seeing people's reaction as a show goes out is really, it's the best feedback you can get in a way. You're really genuinely seeing live feedback about your show.
I think that's why people in TV were so fascinated with Gogglebox when it first came out. Aside from the fact that it's a brilliant show, we were seeing unmediated reactions to TV programmes as they played out. You've got to listen to the audience.
So who is your audience then, would you say? I mean, Alison, in terms of BBC, do you know exactly who you're making programmes for?
I mean, BBC One shares quite a lot in common with ITV and Sky One. It's a big, broad family audience. It ranges across the demographic. And is all the harder for it. It's much easier to make a sort of niche offering for a very specific audience. But BBC One is a big, broad British family audience. And I think you can land big hits for them if you get it right. I think the key is relevance to their lives. You look at things like Eat Well for Less, which has been such a hit for us. It speaks to the audience at eye level. It's useful, it's relevant, but it's also entertaining. Or Annie's Spending Secrets, you know, about how we judge people. We all judge people as to what they spend their money on, whether it's the super wealthy or, you know, the benefits cheats. Everyone's got a value judgment about what people are spending their money on, so it sort of feels relevant to what people are thinking about. So I think that's really important for BBC One. On BBC Two, it's a slightly older audience. It feels a bit more like Sky Arts or Channel 4, but still reasonably broad, a bit more male.
OK, and Ralph, what about Channel 4?
Channel 4 generally skews quite a lot younger, so Channel 4 is, I think the average age of the Channel 4 viewer is 10 years younger than BBC 2, just to give you an example. So on an evening last night at 9 o'clock, we got, with a relatively sort of middling start for the new educating series, it's still got 17% young share, 16 to 34s, which is bigger than BBC One, 3 times the size of BBC Two, three times the size of ITV. So it's young viewers largely, and light viewers, people who don't watch as much television as the people who watch a lot of BBC One or ITV, and they're harder to reach, but they naturally migrate to Channel 4, they naturally come to Channel 4, and commercially they're extraordinarily valuable to us because they're the viewers that advertisers find harder to reach, and so they're kind of a premium for us. So the channel generally skews younger. We don't like to define the audience too much. We still want to be there for everyone. It's a sort of Channel 4. I don't think is a demographic. It's a state of mind. You know, it's a kind of it can belong to any age, but generally the viewers that come to that do skew younger.
Guy.
I think that we don't want to define our audience too much, but we're a channel that has a very strong non-metropolitan audience. Our audience tends to skew slightly female. It is a broad audience. We are after viewers who see their own lives on the screen, and I think that we're very much driven by appealing to people watching stories of contemporary Britain and people's lives within it. So I think we are a channel which I think appeals to an everyman audience. It feels like it's ordinary Britain out there watching Channel 5.
So do you go with your gut instinct about an idea, or do you actually think about your audience and think, well, I'm not so wild about this, but I know that this is going to rate for my audience?
I don't think it's a case of thinking, oh, am I wild about this or not? I think we are. Channel 5 is driven by our audience. We think we know our audience very well. We're driven by the ratings that we see for particular shows. We are so we're very much going on that and other feedback. We're not. I don't think that we're not snobs. We don't sit there thinking we know what our audience ought to have. What we're interested in is programmes that our audience are going to like and are going to watch.
So you are absolutely audience-driven. You know your audience inside out, and you know that this is what they're going to like. So you take away that ego.
And what we need from that is a broad range. So, you know, we'll have psycho pussies right up to a series that you'll see in the clip tape, which is called The Body Donors, which is about body donation after death. We have a very broad range, so that's what we're trying to do. So that doesn't mean we are always going for a lower denominator.
Before we look at the clip, please tell me about psycho pussies.
You know, Channel 5 is somewhere you should be able to have fun. And Psycho Pussies was a brilliantly jokey title for a programme about which was originally called, I think, When Cats Attack, which is a perfectly good subject. And it was a
difficult choice between those two very sophisticated titles.
You know, that title worked. It was a joke.
Brilliant, I think.
1.6 million people watched it live, and so you know it worked. But it was good fun. It was good fun.
That YouTube clip of that cat going nuts in the snow when it attacked a woman in the snow and it jumped onto her face. Was it off the back of that?
There is a load of clips on YouTube of cats going nuts.
Right.
And there are a number of people.
This is what happens in Channel 5 towers.
But there's also a number of people who are very interesting in expert terms about cat psychology. You put those two things together and you begin to see what a programme could be. It's a popular factual treat.
You know your audience very well. Let's have a look at your reel.
That's an immediate eviction. We allow you an hour to get your personal belongings together.
I can't even get in touch with my daughter at school.
I need immediate police assistance.
Hello? Well, I sounded like a big man.
Out of the chaos of the Middle Ages, one family rose to seize control of England. It's more shocking than anything you'll find in fiction.
Body donation has given me more control of what short future I've got.
I never thought that I would be holding a heart, a human heart.
Don't come back to my property!
You're supposed to vacate the property yesterday.
This idiot is ruining our life. I'm a bulldozer house.
This is where it all began. Gives me shivers to be back. And lips smacking good.
It's good fun to go to a party. Nice food, friends, and sex.
You can't judge anybody else the same as us, because we're not normal. The life we lead is crazy.
I sold everything I had and booked a one-way ticket.
Just couldn't go back to that sort of urban lifestyle. We need this open space and these beautiful views.
And my testicles, they sort of go glump.
Right.
It's rude, thoughtless, ignorant.
And 21st century people live like cavemen.
The level of cold is absolutely insane.
It's inevitable people are going to get ill.
Seeing your daughter deteriorate and not know when she's going to get the new heart is the hardest thing.
If they say we're going to get a heart, it'll just be better than winning the lottery, it really will.
Gosh, again, you know, real diversity there on that tape. What are you particularly excited about?
I think we've got a number of shows coming up. I mean, 3 in particular that I think are really interesting from our point of view because I think that they show how the channel is growing up, perhaps. I think Gift of Life is really important, which is a really big series for us, which will have a big campaign around it on organ donation, which comes from Ricardo Pollack, who made Great Ormond Street for BBC Two. It's a really well-made series, beautifully done, emotionally powerful. The Body Donors has been 2 years making. It was the first thing, I think, that Ben Green lit when he came to the channel. It's a really interesting, provocative. I mean, there are blurs in that clip. There won't be any blurs in the series, and I think that's really important for us. I think it shows the breadth of what we can do. I think it shows that at 9 and 10 o'clock we can, we're punching well above our weight. There's another show which is just about to start called Special Needs Hotel, which is the story of a hotel where all of the staff are people with learning difficulties, kids with learning difficulties, which again is a really powerful, emotional show. And I think those 3, for us, along with our staples, I mean, I think what we have done over the last couple of years and we will want more of, is those really important, returnable 8 o'clock brands that work really well for us, that talk to our audience. So Nightmare Tenants, Nightmare Neighbours, those kinds of shows which really, really cut through for us. Can't Pay Will Take It Away has been a massive hit for us.
But do you have a bit of a conflict going on there? Because on the one hand, you're saying 5 is growing up. We are ambitious, we're growing up. We really want to, you're giving Ralph actually a run for his money in prime time. But at the same time, you've just commissioned 30 plus hours of benefits from ITM Factual productions. So is there a conflict going on that you have got huge swathes of programmes about benefits, for example, and at the same time you've got really impactful programmes like Body Donors?
I don't think that's a problem at all. I mean, I think in terms of Benefits Britain, that's been a very important series for us. It's really worked for us. It's been telling a really important story. We're, absolutely committed to telling more of those stories over the next year or two. That's the other commission. We've been rolling that on into different areas, like, for example, the series we've just done about JWIC, and we're going to do more JWIC, which was a heartwarming, community-driven story, a very well-made doc series from Spun Gold. So I think, our view about the benefits programme is that programming is that it's a real part of the British story at the moment. That's we're fine with that, and we don't worry about that. It's part of the story we're telling. We've got 580 hours of commissioned programming into next year, excluding the news and Big Brother and all the rest of it, and I think 28 hours of that is benefits related programming. It's a small part of the overall mix of the channel. It's been quite high profile recently. We've done a summer of shows about benefits. Everything from last night's live benefits wedding, which was a bit of fun, and a lovely couple, and it got us 1 million viewers last night at 9 o'clock, through to much more serious things like the benefits, Britain's Benefits Hotel, which is a really sad film about people caught up in a terrible situation. So we will not apologise for doing those shows. We think they're really important to our schedule. We think our audience like them, and as they continue to watch them and continue to rate well, we'll continue to commission them.
Okay, so you have a broad audience, and obviously I want to include this audience here and the people behind us as well. So you've all been apping away, asking your questions. I've got a couple I already have actually, but I'm going to have a look at what's on here as well. So this is the most popular on the app, the most popular question. Which topics are considered too old hat for Factual, and which subjects are considered gold dust? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Old hat, Alison.
You can reinvent any topics. For the longest time, the BBC used to say we don't want another food competition because we've got MasterChef, and then Bake Off came along. Just in this past year, we launched Eat Well on BBC One. We had the food season with Back in Time for Dinner on BBC Two. People have been saying for so long there's too much food on TV, but if you reimagine it and if you tell it in different ways, on BBC One with a consumer tone, on BBC Two a specialist factual, then the audience will come to it. I think the premium is on innovation. How can we creatively, reimagine the territory? Because there are only so many subject areas. You can't reinvent the wheel in terms of subject areas.
So familiar subjects, but done in an innovative, ambitious way.
Yeah, and innovative is a word that's thrown around so much. And I was sort of thinking about it because it feels like you talked about authenticity. They feel like buzzwords and we never really explain what they mean. I just think we want programmes that surprise us. And it goes back to, you were talking about the audience. Who are the audience? The truth is, for any show to be a big hit, we're the audience. Yeah. So we have to want to watch it. The producers bringing the programmes to us have to want to watch it. We shouldn't second guess who the audience are. Any of the standout hits on any of our channels, we will all have watched. So you can really tell when someone brings you something that they themselves are excited about, that they feel is surprising and fresh, and then you're excited about it.
It's particularly important for us on Sky because obviously most people can get this content for free.
Yes.
So if we're asking people to pay for the content, it's so important for us that we don't just do what these guys are doing, because why would you come to another show? So it's one of the reasons why we don't do cooking and property, because there's a massive raft of those kind of content on other channels. So that innovation and new storytelling and new tactics and authenticity is really, really actually much more important to us than anything else.
And scale, presumably, for you.
Yes, scale, but not always. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes the simplest ideas, I think we'll all agree on that, sometimes the simplest ideas, beautifully executed, are, magic. It doesn't have to be a complicated format. And I think sometimes, sometimes you get pitched things and people kind of go, because we talk about scale a lot, they're going to go, it's going to be huge, it's going to be in the O2, it's going to, you know, and you kind of go, yeah, but the idea's just by putting an idea in a big place doesn't work. So I think sometimes people get distracted from actually trying to work out how can I reinvent the storytelling on this particular concept.
Okay. One question that has been asked a lot as well is the BBC recently cut 40 jobs from its Factual division. Is the future of factual television in jeopardy, do you think?
No, not the BBC.
Not anywhere.
No.
So straightforward no. So even though there's been huge cuts, doesn't...
I mean, the BBC is having to make cuts across the board. We know that.
Yeah.
Just, you know, Whittingdale's just done his interview upstairs. Yeah. But we're still hugely committed to Factual, thousands of hours across 4 channels, so it's not in jeopardy from our point of view.
The bulk of television is non-scripted. I mean, the bulk. I mean, if you actually look at the hours of television and the hours of drama, I mean, you know, that non-scripted is like this and drama's like that. So it's live and kicking.
We're a factual channel, and you know, we work with more and more companies and smaller companies, and the rest of it. You know, we are pulling in new companies each year, and I think that's really important. You know, I think Factual's in a good place.
Okay, thank you. Ralph, I'd like to come on to you again. Just want to get an idea of you and your peccadillos at home. So, casual guy, you're there in your trainers, cool trainers. So at home, maybe it would be pyjama bottoms, no top, sort of bare-chested.
Sandals like Richard, I think.
Perry on the side. What would you be watching at home with your family?
Well, at the moment I spend a lot of time watching Shaun the Sheep, actually, and sort of 50s and 60s Disney as well, because my son's 5 and I try to keep him off Peppa Pig, which drives me mad, and Ben and Holly, which drives me mad. I love everything that Aardman does. I'm just lapping up at the moment.
So very strong opinions about children's television, obviously.
Yeah,
Peppa
very
Pig
strong.
drives you
Don't
nuts.
get me started. Don't get me started. Particularly male role models in children's television.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a huge problem with how men are portrayed in children's television. But this isn't the time to discuss it.
I think it's quite fascinating. Let's have a look at the Channel 4 reel.
I'm just the guy that held the mirror up and was like, look at this, look what you've done.
The idea that different groups commit different crimes may sound like a racial slur, but it's true. We're all going to have to become more ready to offend each other.
My mom and dad have no idea what I'm doing. They think I work in a hospital, that I live in rent. I can't tell them. It's hard on their heart.
It's full of love round here.
All the years of like caring for somebody, and I just want Regan back. I can't even imagine my life ever going back to normal.
I am so sorry for what happened to your daughter, and it makes me feel sick to think that I was one of those people who hurt her.
Why do you think it's appropriate to send indecent images to what you believe was a 13-year-old girl? You're gonna have to follow him. Follow him.
Yeah, I'm extremely racist against Muslims. I fucking hate them.
Your daughter will be Muslim. Let's go! Fucking yeah!
Then dawn came up, and then we could see where the stench was coming from. Too painful.
You spend years preparing yourself to die, and suddenly you're still here, you know.
Did you threaten to assault her? You were laughing. Why are you laughing?
How can anybody treat their daughters like this?
The
government says it's getting tough on immigration.
I think the thing we need to be conscious.
Oh! Shit!
The residents here don't want you here.
I'm a resident here. I can walk up and down here if I want.
It's impossible to tell who's friend or foe.
Got a couple of guys following us, trailing behind about 5 metres.
I have an age of attraction as low as 5.
Within the paedophile community, there is this group of men who are committed to living a law-abiding lifestyle.
He cannot be linked to this transaction because that would indicate he has stolen the money.
I need to move discreetly.
Well, that's exactly what we do.
Have you got your tag on?
Yeah.
Can I have a look?
No.
Our most beautiful and complex artwork that we can make is our identity.
It's just a big melting pot, a mixture of everybody. Do you know what I mean?
We have one chance to get it right.
I mean, it's probably worth just reflecting on the reel for a minute, because I very deliberately cut a reel with almost none of our most popular factual programmes on it. So I left off One Born Every Minute, 24 Hours in A&E, Gogglebox, First Dates, Educating, because they're big shows that we all know. And I wanted to make a particular point with the selection that I made, which is that, and this is talks to the state of mind of Channel 4, which is that as a channel we are happy with, and it's part of our remit to regularly challenge our audience. And I think every one of those clips gives you a sense that we can put the audience in quite an uncomfortable place. I mean, I found a lot of those documentaries really challenging to watch, very discomforting. This week, Asifa Lahore's, the documentary about Asifa Lahore, Muslim drag queens, is a similar thing, you know, like where you feel an extraordinary sense of danger watching that documentary, the risk that those young men are taking to try and be who they want to be. Puts a shiver up my spine. You know, you really feel a sense of danger of what they're doing. So what I think excites me about Channel 4 and what I think makes our output come alive and differentiates us greatly from the other channels is that we regularly make documentaries and programmes that people are going to find quite difficult. You know, they're actually going to feel it's not just entertainment. I mean, we can do entertainment. We can do entertainment very well. We're very good at entertaining the audience, and shows like 24 Hours on A&E and Gogglebox and Educating are largely entertaining. But that's only one aspect of what we do, and a hugely important aspect of what we do is making work that you'll find challenging, and whether that's about immigration, whether it's about benefits, whether it's about, you know, minorities in Britain and our attitudes towards them, we must and will keep on going back into those areas and subjects in Britain which we find difficult.
Well, obviously, it's a channel that's known for its innovation as well, and you've done so much rig stuff, which has been fantastic. But what is next? I mean, do you think the rig's becoming a little bit old hat now?
I think the audiences now, kind of, the rig is invisible to them. Like, they don't sort of think, I'm going to watch this because they put 90 cameras in an A&E or they put 90 cameras in a police station. So I don't think the rig's just a piece of technology that we use in storytelling. The key thing is, what stories are we telling? So in terms of the actual craft of making things, we've moved on quite a lot from the kind of pure thing of One Born Every Minute and 24 Hours on A&E, which is only shot on a rig. And pretty much all of our new shows that use the rig use it as part of another, you know, a number of different methods. So take, for example, 24 Hours in Custody. The first series was pretty much like A&E. It was almost totally confined, with a few examples of DPs going out with cameras. The second series is much more mixed, because we found that the first series, the ones that were really compelling were the ones where you've got a big narrative. You got a story about someone who'd attacked their wife with an axe, or you got a story about someone who'd shot someone, or you got the, you know, in the clip there, that was a father in a Muslim family who had beaten his daughter with an iron, you know, and you need time to let those stories unpack, and you need to capture the beginnings and the ends of them, rather than just get the 24 Hours in Custody. So we've adjusted the way that we're making that series in order to make the programmes a bit less about kind of everyday loot and tow rags who've been caught with some drugs, and a bit more about these more significant, bigger narratives that we can get out of it. And so in order to do that, we just use the rig in a more adaptive way. We keep it's a smaller rig, it's mostly in the interrogation rooms, and the programmes are less reliant on the kind of interstitial bits of banter between the police staff in the station, and more reliant on the kind of strength of the individual narrative. So most rigs that we're doing now are now mixed with other stuff.
So what are you looking for? You're saying we want to make the audience uncomfortable or discomforted, and equally want to entertain them. So broadly, what are you looking for? Can you define that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the quest for us is like how to renew our output and have programmes of the kind of scale of the ones that I gave an example of, the A&Es and the Benefit Street and the Educating, without just repeating ourselves. I mean, I think we've kind of probably reached the end of finding institutions that we can tell stories in. You know, we've done very well of capturing the story of modern Britain as it plays out through a school, a police station, an A&E, a maternity ward, you know, a local street. And I think now we have to think beyond the institutions. So, you know, this autumn we're trying The Catch, which is, you know, going out with fishing trawlers, looking at young men going out for the first time with the fishing trawlers, and again that's a kind of rig and a PD on a boat going out into the North Sea and into the Atlantic, you know, looking at young male working class work, you know, through a really different prism. So we're looking for things that we can do in real scale that don't feel that they're confined necessarily to institutions. And there's also a drift, I'd say, towards sort of more constructive programmes like First Dates, Gogglebox. The Island has been a big hit for us in the last couple of years from the Factual entertainment team. We're very excited about a new launch from Shine that's coming up in a few weeks' time called Hunted, which takes 14 contributors and sends them out into the world and sort of tries to track them down to see if, you know, they leave a footprint with social media, bank cards, etc. Can you disappear in a country which has got, you know, the third highest penetration of CCTV and surveillance in the world? And it's sort of it's interesting, it's a hybrid between my documentaries team and the formats team at Channel 4. It's a documentary format hybrid, you know, it's not a pure documentary. It's obviously a construction that Channel 4 has set about, and then we go and tell the story on.
It looks extraordinary, I have to say, from the trails. I'm just very aware of time, so I'm sorry to sort of cut you off there. But Alison, moving on to you. Again, I'm imagining you at home. I'm thinking maybe a play suit, cheeky play suit. Perhaps a 12-pack again of Stella on the side. What would you be watching?
My kids are obviously a bit older than Ralph, so my eldest is 8. And my husband always describes this as my favourite time of the year because the football season started and we're about to enter the X Factor Strictly double bill on a Saturday night. Unfortunately for me, my son shares my viewing habits, so a lot of football and a lot of talent reality shows.
How interesting. So entertainment then, sport and entertainment.
I obviously watch a lot of Factual, a lot, but for pure pleasure, where it's not sort of work-related, yeah, football and entertainment.
Let's have a look at what we can look forward to.
I regard it as parenting when we watch it together.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at your reel. Let's talk about BBC Two, because it's built on a factual schedule, really. Just broadly speaking, what are you looking for?
I would like some more schedule interrupters, some events of sort of real scale and ambition. And I think they can come in lots of different forms. You know, we've got Britain's busiest railways, the world's busiest railways on at the moment, which is as live, it's not live. In some ways, the detectives felt like an event because it was stripped. I've admired some of the things that Channel 4 have done, whether it's crashing a plane or sort of circumnavigating the globe. You know, those really terrifying pitches that feel undoable would be exciting to come through the door. In terms of 8 and 9 o'clock, I would like more fact-end formats and specialist factual formats come through the door. BBC Two's got a legacy with things like The Apprentice and Dragon's Den of fact-end formats, but I think more recently people don't believe us that we'll commission them, and
Why?
so we don't. Maybe there haven't been enough on the channel recently, but I would really like to see more fact-end formats come through the door. And a reinvention of adventure travel. We've done a lot of adventure travel, and I think the form has become saturated, so how can we reimagine that? Again, you know, you admire things like The Island or the Ben Fogle Show on Channel 5. And I'd like some more specialist factual formats. Again, there's a big legacy from Who Do You Think You Are all the way through to Back in Time for Dinner. And we've had success, you know, with Back in Time or with Six Puppies. For BBC Two, it's that sweet spot where pleasure meets content. So that it's a sort of pleasurable, enjoyable watch, but it's also enriching and nourishing, and it's full of content. So.
Is there room for innovation, do you think, on
Absolutely.
BBC Two? So even though you've got...
I mean, a huge appetite for it.
Ah, OK, because I would have thought that maybe that wouldn't sit well with your audience, that you've got such a loyal audience that, you know, would they be open to innovation in the way that Channel 4 does innovation?
Absolutely. And again, you know, you keep saying this, and I don't believe people fully believe that we mean it. So all I would sort of urge everyone to do is give us a try over the autumn. Bring your scary, innovative ideas. Don't second guess what BBC Two wants. Bring ideas that you're excited by, and if we fail you and don't take them through to commission, then next year you can all come back to me and say, see, you didn't really mean it. But we really want to innovate. There's a huge appetite from Kim to take risks.
You know yourself, there's been huge upheaval anyway at the BBC, and that has affected not only you guys in terms of being able to do your jobs, but it's really affected producers and indies and the waiting times. So what are you doing in terms of actually making that commissioning process flow better for indies?
You're absolutely right. We've been too slow in the past, and we've got to improve. I'm obviously new to my position. From the beginning of September, we will have a full factual commissioning team in place, which I think will be a relief to many people in this room. So there's a very clear structure, which we'll be talking about in September. We'll have all the heads of in place, Tom, Martin, Donna, Patrick joining us. I hope that we'll be able to manage the department better. I would urge people to use pitch more, because then you can follow what stage your ideas are at. If you know, as I say, I'm new to this job and I really want to make it different and to work more smoothly and more quickly. So if people are having issues, email me. Let me know if your idea's held up. Let me know if you haven't heard back, if you don't know what's happening with talent or paid development. You know, come and pester me, that's my job, and I'll work to resolve it. I won't always be able to give the answer that people want to hear, but I'll be able to give an answer.
OK, in which case, it just remains for me to say thank you so much to you guys for being here and being a part of this. And more importantly, thank you to our panel. Celia, Richard, Guy, Ralph and Alison, thank you so much.